In a world where we rely on law enforcement to maintain order and safety, there are moments that shake our trust and challenge our perceptions. 2023 saw its share of chilling incidents that raised eyebrows and ignited debates worldwide. Today we delve deep into 5 of the most disturbing police interventions of the year. Viewer discretion is advised, as some of the content may be distressing for certain audiences. Let's uncover the truth behind these harrowing events. The sleepy neighborhood of St. Thomas Square settled in for a chilly night as the hustle and bustle of downtown Tulsa, Oklahoma continued on without them. For all intents and purposes, January 5th was due to be a night like any other. Unfortunately, all of that would change just before the clock struck midnight. Inside an unassuming apartment, something happened that would shake St. Thomas Square residents to their core and made the night of January 5th one that they won't soon forget.
I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. Please. I'm so sorry.
At 11:43 p.m., the Tulsa Police Riverside Division responded to a frantic 911 call from April Lita. By the time police arrived, firefighters and EMSA paramedics were already on the scene tending to the victim, 9-year-old Xander Lita. Xander had suffered multiple stab wounds to the chest by none other than his own sister, who remains unidentified due to her age.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
How old are you?
I'm 12 years old.
In this chest cam footage of the incident that was released in May, you get a first-hand look into the chilling event. After escorting the teen out of the house and placing her in handcuffs, police began to gather evidence to better understand what happened just minutes before.
Where's the knife?
I was upstairs in my room and I threw it out the window and it's behind the apartment right here.
You threw it where?
I threw it out my window upstairs.
Right up here?
Not right there. It's the room. It's the other room. It's right behind the apartment. This apartment right here.
Judging by what happens next, it seems that her mother has received information at the same rate as the police, despite being in the house when it happened.
So where would the knife be? On that side?
Right behind. Yeah. The knife? I'm so sorry, Mama.
In normal circumstances, you might think that someone who would commit such an act would be prepared for the consequences that follow. That appears to be anything but true of this teen girl. She repeatedly pleads for forgiveness from her mother as well as the cops who have taken her into custody, and even goes as far to imply that it wasn't her that drove the knife through her brother's chest multiple times. You won't believe what she blames the violence on.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. This is some demonic shit. I'm so sorry.
What's your mom think?
According to the teen, she believes something demonic came over her to cause her to do what she did. A plausible theory if you believe that sort of thing given the nature of what happened, but this is far from the full story. The teen continues to sob, plead, and beg for forgiveness as she does her best to assist the police however she can. In an attempt to gain more insight, the cop asks the teen if she has any cuts on herself.
Do you have any cuts on you?
I do.
Where at?
On my arm.
Which arm?
Both of them. My left one is just small cuts.
Did you cut yourself?
Yes.
She admits that she does have small cuts on her arms, but it's not what you might think.
Is it just those? Those look old. Are they old?
This
Oh, those-
one and this
yeah,
one,
those are a little-
This one, those are old with like.
Do you have any new?
one that's brand new. This was brand
That's
new
from
one.
today?
Yes.
In addition to several new cuts administered with the same knife she used to stab her brother, her arms appear to have several older cuts that have already healed. This signifies that she may have been having these issues for some time, though there's no concrete information at this point. The plot thickens. As the police officer goes to put the teen's cuffs back on, her mother joins them. She's beginning to show signs of worry for her daughter, though still very, very confused.
What's gonna happen with her? I need to go to the hospital.
I don't know yet. You don't know yet. You go with the hospital. We'll come and talk to you, okay?
You can tell April is torn between her 2 children that she loves very much, but ultimately goes with Xander in the ambulance. She tells her daughter to stay calm, promises she's going to figure out what happened, and leaves.
Whatever happens, just be calm, okay? I don't know what happened tonight.
So sorry.
We'll figure it out. I have to go be with your brother. Make sure he's okay.
I don't know what the I did. I'm so sorry. I love you.
Throughout all of this, she's continually apologetic and fears she's going to jail. In the relative silence of the car, she divulges a little more information that will send a chill down your spine.
It's okay. It's okay.
I heard my brother screaming and I didn't know what to do, so I just ran out and then I came back because I was scared.
If what she says is to be believed, the teen doesn't even remember engaging in the act. She only remembers the bloody aftermath and the fear that struck her when she came to her senses. At this point, her claim of demonic possession was starting to hold some water. And then we get an almost touching exchange between an officer and the troubled, terrified teen.
Will I be in jail?
Right now, let's just, calm down a little, okay? I don't know what we're gonna do right now, alright?
Okay.
Right now, we're investigating.
The cop attempts to calm the girl down without allowing her to form unrealistic expectations. She's already admitted to the act, they have the weapon, and things don't look good for the young girl. Still, there's kindness in the officer's voice as he does his best to get her to relax.
Take a deep breath, okay? I know there's a lot of things going on right now. Just take a breath.
I don't know why I did it.
Just take a breath. Let's not think about it.
After a while, you might forget that the subject of this video is a middle schooler, a child who had their whole life ahead of them just hours before. However, a later exchange recontextualizes the situation.
Am I gonna be able to go back to school?
Huh?
Am I gonna be able to go back to school?
I don't know yet. Right now, we're just calling people. So I don't know when. Possibility. Yes, I don't know. I can't answer that for you, alright, Jen?
This 12-year-old knows she's in trouble and she can't see her future past a set of iron bars as she sits in the back of a police car. Her words and the sounds of her voice breaking as she speaks to them are utterly heartbreaking.
I just want to say goodbye to a lot of people.
Say good. Where you going?
Jail!
You?
I stabbed someone that's bad!
Oh.
That's really bad!
Let's not think about that, okay? Let's not think about that.
Then her fears shift to how her family will see her after the dust settles.
My mom won't want me to live there anymore.
Your mom loves you, okay? Your brother loves
They
you
won't
too.
trust me anymore.
They wouldn't be able to trust me anymore. More heartbreaking words from someone who's grappling with an act they can't believe they committed themselves. As she's only 12, the officer then explains that she's too young to go to jail and would more likely end up in a juvenile detention center for an unspecified amount of time. While this conversation is happening in the police car, Xander has reached the hospital and been rushed into surgery. Unfortunately, his wounds were too severe, and his small body just wasn't strong enough to survive the attack. Xander later passed away just after 2:30 a.m. When the body cam footage picks up the teen, now officially a murderer, has just reached the Family Center for Juvenile Justice.
We'll get you out of those handcuffs. This is me. Let's go through that door right there.
A quick peek at the officer's phone shows that the time is 3:52 a.m., over an hour since her brother's passing. After calling someone to be let into the building, the teen had her handcuffs removed so she can use the bathroom, and the detention center staff member has a brief word with the officer who got her there. The subject of this conversation, the now deceased brother.
I've got everything for her. We're gonna leave it on just for a bit. How was she on the way here?
She was asleep. She was good.
Does she know?
No, she doesn't know. I'm not telling her anything yet.
Okay.
I'll let you do it.
I understand.
She hasn't been informed of the result of her attack, and the officer is handing her over to the detention center staff to break the news to her. Given that she's only just started to regain her composure, we can hardly blame him for wanting to give her a few more moments of peace. The staff member takes over the chest cam and we follow her now as she leads the team through the next steps of the process.
Your mom's here too. They just pulled in. Okay? I'm gonna kind of walk you through everything. And we'll just go from there. And we'll just hang out in here for now, okay? Well, we're gonna talk to your mom first, and then we'll talk to both of you at the same time, okay?
Another cut in the footage, and we're now with the police officer questioning Aprilita. It's difficult to discern at what point in the night this occurred, but the officer states that Xander is receiving care and breathing when he walks in. With that information, it's safe to say that this conversation happens before 2:30 a.m.
Okay, so right now, he's breathing. They're doing everything they can, but I just talked to the doctor, and she was saying it's all good things right now.
Oh, thank God, okay.
So
both my kids tonight.
Over the next several minutes, the distraught mother provides a little more insight into the dynamic between Xander and his older sister, as well as what happened earlier in the night.
Like, grunts over anything.
yeah,
It's not like her. Like, it's like they bully each other like brother and sisters, but they never like fist fight or do anything like that.
So
It
this
was
is
just
completely-
He was in bed. He was downstairs trying to sleep. I don't know why she even went down there. Like, what the hell was she? I don't understand any of it. All I know is I heard him screaming. The worst scream ever, and I thought maybe he was having a nightmare, so I started trying to wake him up, and there's blood everywhere. he said she stabbed me. I was like, who? And he started going in and out of consciousness, and so that's what they told me to put him on the floor, do chest compression.
According to April, what happened was completely out of character for her daughter. She never displayed any violent behavior, so no one could possibly have seen this coming. One statement April makes here stands out because it echoes something her daughter said back in the police car.
I mean, they don't really get along that great, but never would have assumed she'd do something like that. That's crazy to me. Like, she was like, I don't know why. It was crazy. I don't know. She doesn't even curse. Like, I don't know. His own sister, you know, that he will never forgive her. It will never be, there will always be issues now.
The rest of the footage consists of the officer filling out the search warrant form for April to sign, followed by Xander's father and other family members arriving to comfort April. The final words of the footage sum up the entire night.
She thought that he was just having a nightmare until she saw the blood.
Okay.
So, and shit.
For many months, there was total silence regarding the case as police collected evidence and conducted their investigation. Speaking with Chris Cuomo on News Nation, Lita revealed that the attack is believed to be the result of a medication issue that caused a manic episode to manifest in her daughter. The teen had been taking an unspecified ADHD medication for 5 years, but stopped because she moved from public school to homeschooling, a much easier environment to focus in. She went back on the same medication a year and a half later, and this is when the negative side effects began to manifest, such as irritability and self-harm. She was taken off the meds again at that point, but it seems that the damage was already done. The attack was completely and utterly unavoidable. Or so it seemed. In that same interview, April Lita reveals a piece of information that will shock you.
To say in terms of explaining how it got to that place?
No, all I know is she was having thoughts of stabbing him about 2 weeks prior. She reached out to a few of her friends and told them. And unfortunately, they were maybe afraid to tell the parents or me, but they did not. So I had no idea that she was having those thoughts.
As of now, April Lita's daughter remains in police custody, where she's being treated as the Tulsa Police Child Crisis Unit continues their investigation. No charges have been levied against her at this time. A few days after the event, a neighbor came forward to offer April a few words of advice. Be strong, keep your faith, and just don't give up on your daughter. Don't give up on her at all. The senior year of high school is supposed to be an exciting time in any person's life. It symbolizes growth, a transitioning from children into adults who will enter the world and do great things. This is 19-year-old Alexi Treviso. Known for being both an excellent student and cheerleader, Alexi seemed like she was on the right track to a wholesome, fulfilling life. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Due to a lie that got out of hand, her life's trajectory has been forever changed. She won't be having the ideal senior year experience. She took that, as well as her promising future, and threw it in the garbage. Literally. On January 27, 2023, Treviso was taken to Artesia General Hospital by her mother, Rosa Rodriguez. The purpose of the visit was an extreme back pain, a chronic illness Treviso had unfortunately suffered since childhood. However, what was initially intended to be a run-of-the-mill hospital visit became anything but. After being admitted to the emergency room, Treviso was asked a standard array of questions in order to gauge what was ailing her. Among those questions was she pregnant? Treviso adamantly denied being pregnant, just as she'd spent the previous several months doing. Despite her denial, the hospital conducted a lab test that would eventually return with an undeniable rebuttal to her claims, the confirmation that Alexi Treviso was in fact pregnant. She still insisted that she wasn't and couldn't be since she wasn't sexually active. Unfortunately, her lie wasn't addressed in time. In the middle of her examination, Treviso announced to her mother and the doctor that she had to use the bathroom urgently. Hospital surveillance footage shows Treviso scampering towards the bathroom, covering her backside with her hand. Treviso locks herself in the bathroom and several minutes pass by. At 1:48, Alexi's mother goes to check on her but returns to the room without her daughter. Another 10 minutes passes. Hospital staff takes turns knocking on the door to make sure she's okay.
I knocked on the door and I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Yes, I'm fine. I'm just having a hard time going to the bathroom," is what she replied.
After a while, I started hearing, so I probably checked on her 2 to 3 times, I'm not exactly sure. And then I just kept hearing paper towel dispenser and flushing and like the water running.
Time passes as Treviso remains locked in the bathroom. After roughly 20 minutes, the staff begins to worry that Treviso is doing something to herself after learning she's pregnant, so the key to the bathroom is brought in to unlock the door. The door's unlocked at 1:58 a.m. and the teen exits the bathroom after a tense 20 minutes. What she left behind was unlike anything the season hospital staff had ever seen.
All I saw was like blood everywhere, like on the walls, on the toilet. It just looked like a horror film.
We didn't know what this blood was from. We were a little concerned that maybe she had, known that we were gonna figure it out and that she might have harmed herself or something in the restroom, so the doc wanted to go check her, but obviously that wasn't the case.
It looked like a horror film, according to one member, complete with copious amounts of blood spattered on several surfaces of the room. It's immediately clear that Treviso was attempting to clean up the mess she made, but her doctors were more concerned at the sheer amount of blood that appears to have been lost.
The doctor said she had a miscarriage?
Yeah.
Okay.
She said it seems, essentially, I'm not sure the exact words, so it was a few months ago, but she said, it seems that you've suffered from a miscarriage, which didn't seem totally abnormal. It seemed awful miscarriages where they're very bloody. And so...
was she bloody?
Mm-hmm.
Like her legs?
Yeah, she had blood all down her legs, and then there was blood in the bathroom everywhere, so...
Where exactly was the blood and how much?
It was a good amount. It was on the floor.
As Treviso receives aid, the hospital's cleaning crew is called in to sanitize the bathroom as well as the blood trail she left behind. However, when it came time to throw out the trash, she noticed that the trash can was slightly heavier than usual. Despite cleaning buckets upon buckets of blood, the most horrifying thing this cleaner saw was yet to come.
And so I started getting the trash out, and then when I did that, I seen that there was a baby in there. And that's when I freaked out, and I called Lori and HT, or the nurses up front, and because there was a baby in the trash. And the baby, when I looked at it, the baby was wrapped up in the bottom of the trash can, and with trash on top of it, in a trash bag.
A baby boy discarded in the trash and covered with soiled paper towels and a plastic trash liner were found. Devastatingly, he was not alive. The cleaner is horrified by the discovery and reports her findings immediately. Treviso's doctor is called in to see the scene with her own eyes and takes the body into another room for examination. At that point, the police are called in. They're filled in on the situation by hospital staff before escorting the doctor back to their room to break the news to Treviso's mother.
The first thing, though, is I need to make sure that the mother, the woman who delivered the baby, is medically stable. I don't know if she delivered a placenta. She's bleeding a lot. I just got her accepted to Loveless, so I need to get her up there as soon as possible.
Okay.
Okay.
We discovered a dead baby in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
It came out of me and I didn't know what to do, Treviso says to her mother once the truth has been revealed. As more details are relayed to her, Rosa Rodriguez is horrified.
How big is the baby?
It's full term.
What?
The doctor calmly explains to Treviso and her mother that due to the circumstances, the police will need to be involved, and you can almost hear Alexi's world come crashing down.
I'm sorry about this, but in terms of delivering a baby and it looked like you tried to hide it, we do have to have the police involved.
And nothing was crying. It came out with nothing.
Nothing was crying, Alexi says repeatedly, implying that the baby was already deceased upon delivery. The autopsy of the child would eventually claim otherwise. Reality sets in as police and detectives detain Alexi, which prompts her mother to question her daughter herself.
Where did you put the baby at? Tell me the truth. In there. You put it in the bag?
Yes.
Yeah. And what bag? Why did you say anything to us? Do you want to get in trouble for this now? You could get in trouble for this.
Mom, just give it time, okay?
Seeing a potential issue arising not only due to the mother's anger but the stress that it puts on her weakened body, police move to prevent Alexi's mother from being in the room with her. A cop enters the room to let Alexi know what's going on.
Okay, I know you're scared, I know everything is okay. As of right now, I cannot allow your mom to be in here with you, okay? So, once the detectives get here, then she may be able to come back in here. But as of right now, I can't allow her to be back in here, okay? If you need something, we're not going to stay in here, okay? Because I think it makes it worse that we're here anyway, alright, obviously. And I know you're scared. So what we're going to do is we're going to stay on the outside of the door, okay? As long as you promise me you're not going to hurt yourself, okay? Like I said, this is a lot. I know it is, okay?
By this point in time, Treviso is still losing a lot of blood and has yet to deliver the placenta. She still requires urgent care that Artesia General Hospital isn't equipped to provide, so she's prepped to be airlifted to Lovelace Women's Hospital Labor Delivery Unit. Just before she's loaded into the helicopter, an officer informs Alexi that she's no longer being detained, but that the detectives in charge of the case will be in touch with her.
Okay, Alexi, so obviously you're getting transport, okay? So you're not detained no more. The detectives will be contacting you, okay?
As Alexi is airlifted to Lovelace, a detective approaches her family who are standing by in the waiting room.
What's gonna go on? Like, what? Can I be with her?
She's getting life flighted out right now.
Okay.
So they're taking her right now.
Okay.
The detective outlines what happens next for Alexi's family and answers any questions he can. As the stepfather fights back tears, this chest cam footage reveals an interesting wrinkle to the proceedings.
That's her boyfriend.
Devin Fierro, Alexi's boyfriend and the father of the child, is also present.
Mr. Boyfriend, do you have a driver's license?
The detective takes his information and runs it through the database. Later, he admits to being the father.
So, not trying to be rude, but you are more than likely would be the father? Okay.
No, we get it. We get
Sometimes
it.
it happens.
Then the detective speaks with Rosa Rodriguez to try and get a better understanding of what exactly happened. In the ensuing conversation, Rodriguez reveals why Alexi suffering from back and hip pain was such a common occurrence.
Has she been having back pain before?
Yeah, she's pain for her and her hips is no. I mean, she was born with like her. I don't know. It's like crooked.
Her spine?
Okay, because my ex-husband, he hit me. He beat me whenever I was pregnant with her. So she was early. She had some problems with her hips. Like I always had to take her to the chiropractor to get adjusted because she couldn't use, like, she was always getting constipated. Like she had to get lined up, whatever. So, I mean, I've been taking her to chiropractor. I didn't know. I honestly didn't know she was pregnant. I didn't know. I just thought, like she said, I have back pain while my hips are hurting me. I think I need to go to the chiropractor. I said, okay, let's go tomorrow. But she was like in really a lot of pain and, you know.
A lifetime of back pain stemming from domestic violence while her mother was pregnant with her is not fair to Alexi, but is something she's endured and learned to live with. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case for the unborn child. After that fateful night, months go by as the investigation heats up. The autopsy is carried out, evidence is examined, and detectives sit down with the staff members who were involved in the incident for individual interviews.
When I picked it up, that's when I noticed it even more because all I saw was black and purple. But once we picked it up, like the bag suctioned to his face.
Something's in the trash can. I'm like, I looked in there, there's a clean liner. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, pick it up. I picked it, I could feel the weight. I knew then we had a serious problem. Reason for us to begin any life saving, the baby was completely gone.
Brought the baby up, we called the doctor obviously out of the room from her exam, and we came in, kind of, doc assessed the baby, and
Several nurses make notes that Alyssa seemed to be manipulative and was hell-bent on hiding her pregnancy from the world.
it just seemed like we were being just deceived from the beginning. But that's just my take on it. It seemed like she was very manipulative with us, and it was at least what it seemed like to me. She didn't want you to discover, that she was pregnant, and she wore really baggy clothing.
The umbilical cord looked like an animal had tore it apart. Have you ever eaten string cheese? Like, when you twist it, that's how the bottom of the umbilical cord looked. And I just remember it caught my eye, and I was like, God. I was like, this chick really ripped this thing apart.
Chillingly, one nurse stated that neither Alexi nor her mother asked the common questions about the baby that most people would ask.
I was really surprised not one person asked me about the baby. If it was alive, if it was dead, if it was a boy, if it was a girl, no one asked me anything. She didn't even ask. No, she didn't ask. The only thing she started doing was crying and started talking about she didn't know what to do. Not one. I've never seen I've delivered multiple babies and I've seen multiple miscarriages, and I've never seen a reaction like that.
The general consensus among the nurses and staff members who were interviewed is that Treviso was more concerned about being in trouble with her mother than about the well-being of the potential child. Those interviews were conducted on April 26th. Just under a month later, on May 10th, police arrived at Alexi Treviso's place of residence with a warrant for her arrest. Alexi's mother is borderline combative with the detectives and officers. The law enforcement is initially unwilling to divulge the details of the warrant, but Rodriguez's obstinance forces their hand. One count of first-degree murder and another for tampering with evidence. Obviously, these are very serious charges, but Rodriguez continues to ask for the warrant as she calls someone on the phone. It's soon clear that her attempt to hold herself together fails, and she returns to the door pleading with the cops and in tears.
We're not going to be rough with her or anything. We're just going to take her over there and book her.
Please don't be rough with her, please.
Just bring her out. You can be with her the entire time, okay?
You know where the public safety complex is? 3300 West Main?
Eventually, Alexi Treviso appears in the doorway. She submits to her arrest and is transported to the detention center with her mother following closely behind. After she was booked at the detention center, Treviso was released from police custody. Further, she's been allowed to complete her senior year of high school without any oversight while she awaits her trial, which has been scheduled for October 2nd. Tara Packany met the shock of her life on Wednesday, the 23rd of February of 22. She went downstairs in her home in Green Bay, Wisconsin to check on her son, only to find that he wasn't home. She walked back upstairs and noticed something odd. One of her buckets was covered with a shower towel. When she lifted that towel, she found the severed head of her son, Shad Therian, sitting in the bucket. Shad was only 24 and already his life had been violently ended. The cops saw the gory sight when they arrived at the Pakanich home. The moment Tara Packany pointed out the bucket, the cops walked up, took a look, and a low cuss escaped the officer who flashed his torch into the bucket. They went around the house in search of the rest of Shad's remains. The crime scene looked strangely pristine. No splashes of blood on the bed, on the floor, or on the walls. Everything looked clean except for dry blood on the mattresses and the pillow. The killer had been meticulous with the scene, so much so that it almost looked like nothing happened. After the search, Tara informed the cops that Shad's childhood friend, Taylor Skibbusiness, was the last person to have seen her son alive. Shad and Taylor had known each other since middle school, and at some point they'd been involved in a physical relationship. Cops went on a hunt for Taylor and found her in her home. The first sign that they'd found the culprit was the bloody footprint they encountered near her home.
Hey, who did that? Hi, Taylor, how's it going? Officer Russell with the Green Bay Police Department.
They followed the trail and soon had her in handcuffs. They didn't just arrest her, they made her sit on the stairs while they searched her apartment.
Get out of the house! Who else is in the apartment? Be straight up. Tomes? Who else? Just Tomes? Is he armed? Nobody's armed?
Nobody's armed.
You sure?
I'm sure.
You can see that wry, carefree smile on her face as she responds to the cops' questions. They didn't find anything in her home, but she had what looked like blood on her hands and on her sweatshirt. She was hurled into an interrogation room for questioning. The officer read her the Miranda rights before the interrogation commenced. There's an unwholesome calmness to her, a relaxed ease that scares you and makes you wonder whether this is the first time she's had a man killed.
Do you understand each of these rights?
Yeah.
Realizing that you have these rights, are you not willing to answer questions or make a statement?
Yes.
Do you know Shad? And how do you know Shad?
He's my ex.
He's your ex-boyfriend?
The interrogation continues to reveal very disturbing details. Taylor and Shad had returned to his home where they spent the day together as Mrs. Packany was away. As part of their regular foreplay, she said they enjoyed choking each other with a chain. For them, it was a game, something fun.
I don't know, there's this chain thing, right? And then, yeah, like I was playing around with it.
Okay.
And like we were smoking the bitch, right?
Okay.
And then I'm terrible at explaining things, so let's see here. And then here comes the chain, right? And then he put it around his neck. Well, we were like playing around and shit, and then I don't know.
She maintains that Shad liked strangulation, yet one might wonder what sort of chains they've used in the past. Plastic, something soft, or metal. This time they used metal chains, and while Shad lay face down on his bed, Taylor wrapped the chain around his neck and choked him.
And so there was a chain. You know what kind of chain?
It's the one that's on the same place as where the bitch and
And where would that be again, please?
I think it's on a dresser.
On a dresser?
Is it not? Oh, is it on a dresser? I don't know.
I don't know either. I haven't been there. I mean, as best as you can remember. So you think that there could be a chain and the ice on a dresser down in the basement?
It's just weird. I got like a weird flashback on it.
Instead of stopping as always, she went wild and kept the chain wrapped around his throat until the life drained out of him. You can hear her laugh as she described the ordeal.
I don't even know anymore. Like it was weird. I was riding him like a donkey, okay? And then like I think so. I think that's what was happening. I was pulling and then like I don't know.
Were you two being intimate, having sex?
It was getting there.
It was getting there. Okay. So will this be considered foreplay?
Yeah, it was. And then I don't know. And then I just didn't stop. I don't know why. I didn't stop.
After he had died, she went ahead to decapitate his body, leaving his head in a bucket for his mother to find.
Damn, the head. Yeah, I can't believe I left that.
Where'd you do the body?
The body's there.
So were you gonna take the hit somewhere?
I liked it.
You liked it?
According to her, she had hoped to properly dismember and keep Shad's body parts, but she'd gotten lazy.
The what?
I think it's a foot.
A foot?
Leg, a leg, maybe. I don't know. I'm like, I'm gonna bring it all, and then I'm like, man, this is messy, so then I just left it. I got lazy.
Okay.
I got lazy, and that's what I did, so.
So there's gonna be maybe a foot or a leg in the van. And then,
Yeah,
what'd you do with the head?
I forgot that was in the van, so, yeah.
What'd you do with the head?
The head, I put it in that bucket, that black bucket.
She described everything, and somehow you begin to notice patterns of premeditation in her words, or worse, words that suggest she may have just done this before. The same thoughts might cross your mind when the detective asks, so when did you realize that Shad wasn't having fun anymore? Her response gives you chills. She described how he died, painfully. He even pissed himself. While all these signs of his impending death presented clearly to her, she didn't stop. Instead, she held on until Shad breathed his last.
I'm just like, shit. I think I went a little too far, because I was blacking out while I was doing it, right? And then and then I look at him, I'm like, shit, he's already purple. I'm like, fuck, I'm like, I don't know if he's fucking, is he good? But then when I woke up, during the blackout moment, I'm like, shit.
When asked if she'd planned to kill Shad, she said it was completely random and unpremeditated.
Did you want Shad to be dead?
No, it was out of random. I wasn't expecting that, and it kind of threw me off guard. And it was in an open place, you went in the basement, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty open.
Well, I haven't been down there, but is it?
It is. Okay. So it was weird. It was really weird. And you open the door to the outside, and you go down the stairs, and it's right there. You can see everything right as you go down the stairs.
Whether it was the numerous drugs they'd ingested and injected into their systems or something else, Taylor attempts to exonerate herself with a confusing statement about her state of mind.
That's how messed up my head was. I was really messed up. I don't know what was going on. I was just going crazy. And then, I don't know what was going on at all. Because I think it was the open area. I wasn't in a room by myself. There was no door. It's an open area.
Here's another reason to think this murder wasn't just as random as she says. The police had gone through her search history and found a search she'd entered on her search engine. Jeffrey Dahmer walking into court all sexy. She enjoyed her evil a little too much and had made sure to turn it into a cruel game. She was sentenced to life in prison as the state of Wisconsin doesn't have the death penalty. Here's one of her more disturbing comments to the cops. She asked them, "Do you know what it's like to love something so much that you kill it?" The story of Lisa Knox Edward is one of the strangest in the history of modern policing. This 60-year-old woman actually died while in the custody of Knoxville, Tennessee police. How it happened, as well as any possible wrongdoing or negligence on behalf of the officers, remains a subject of debate to this day. A police officer arrived at Fort Sanders Regional Medical Center in response to a woman who was reportedly refusing to leave hospital property. The officer first asked the woman if the hospital staff had in fact asked her to leave.
Did the hospital ask you to leave?
She answers yes, but says she's unable to move properly. The police officer continues to tell her that she needs to leave.
I can't get no one. You gotta leave though, they want you gone.
I know I can't even get to the door.
You can't get where?
Huh?
You can't get to where?
I can't get back up there.
They don't want you back up there, they want you to leave their property.
I can't leave me out.
The woman is 60-year-old Lisa Edwards, a former Knoxville resident who had recently moved from Tennessee to Rhode Island but was back visiting family. What the officer doesn't know, and what Miss Edwards is not accurately explaining, is that she suffered a stroke in August of 2019. This left her partially paralyzed and unable to use her left side.
I understand you say you got some problems going on. You're gonna have to find a way to get out of here, okay? I don't want this to turn into a situation where you have to go to jail. If you're looking for somewhere to go because you're cold.
She finally tells the officer that she can't walk properly due to her stroke and an ankle injury, but he ignores her and asserts that if the hospital kicked her out, she must have been giving them problems.
I shattered my ankle and I had a stroke.
Well, if the medical professionals have saw you and discharged you,
they won't.
I got nothing to do with that then, but you gotta get going.
Upon suffering abdominal pains on the plane, she'd been taken to the emergency room but later released, leading to her current situation.
I can't even get down there.
You're gonna have to figure out a way to get going.
I can't get down there.
So you're saying that you're gonna go to
Can
jail?
you call the preacher for me?
Who?
The preacher. I guess it was preacher.
No, ma'am. You have a phone right there.
I don't know the number.
Then how am I supposed to know the number to call the preacher then if you don't know the number?
At this point, they also discover that the wheelchair belongs to the hospital and she can't use it to assist herself in leaving.
It's the hospital's wheelchair.
Well, you're gonna have to get up and figure out a way to get going.
I can't. Can I come in and try my phone number again?
She repeatedly claims that she can't leave, which the officer interprets as she will not leave.
Please don't hurt me no more, so.
Okay, I'm done talking to him. You start talking nonsense like that, I'm done with you. You'll go to jail. Boy, Bravo, can you have a wagon sitting over here?
The cop calls for police transport wagons for Edwards. As he waits for the wagon to arrive, he gets her information and decides to put her under arrest for criminal trespassing charges.
Give me your info. What's your name?
Lisa Lynn Edwards. My daddy used to be constable.
What's your date of birth?
8662.
Several more cops arrive after this. They have moved Edwards outside of the parking deck where they're ignoring her constant pleas to not take her to jail. Because of her mobility issues and the fact that she's overweight, the cops have a lot of trouble moving Miss Edwards into the van. She repeatedly tells them that she can't take a step into the van, and it's clear that she's overexerting herself to try and follow their orders. The cops are extremely frustrated by this, referring to her as dead weight, and claiming she's not helping them in her attempts to move her. It's at this point that Edwards begins telling the officers that she can't breathe. She's wheezing and tells the cops that she needs her inhaler. Moments later, she collapses back into the van. The cops take their time looking for the inhaler and even go as far as to mock her for having cigarettes while having breathing problems. She claims she's going to pass out, but the cops tell her that they don't believe she's having a medical crisis. They tell her she does not apparently have an inhaler and attempt, yet again, to put her in the truck. At this point, Edwards is lying helpless on the ground outside of the truck. The police decide to load Miss Edwards into the back of one of their cars, as this vehicle has the lowest possible profile. Footage from inside the car shows just how much duress Miss Edwards was really under. Not only was she losing control of her bodily functions, but she can be heard wheezing as she tries to breathe and sit up straight. She begins begging the cops to take her to the hospital, but receives no assistance as the cops begin driving her to the detention center. She asks the cop to stop and pull her up so she can breathe more easily, but he refuses. While en route to the detention facility, the cop transporting Edwards stops to assist someone on the side of the highway. Upon returning from his conversation, he finds Lisa Edwards fully unresponsive in the back seat. They try several times to get her to respond, but she can't. At this point, the officers have no choice but to call for medical assistance. EMTs arrived shortly after the officer called for them and transported Edwards back to the hospital she had just left. She died there the next day. According to the autopsy, Lisa Edwards died of an ischemic stroke due to an atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. They also mentioned she had a number of other comorbidities at the time of her death, including COPD and acute bronchitis. Despite the best efforts of the questionable police department to keep much of the video out of the spotlight, Edward's son and daughter-in-law worked hard to get the video released to the public. There were even marches and vigils held in Miss Edwards' honor. After an investigation, the cops involved were all suspended without pay for several days, while one was demoted from his rank of sergeant. This is the eye-popping case of Chad Doberman, and a disturbing case for Claremont officers in the Monroe Township community who were left heartbroken by the murder of 3 kids in one household. On June 15th of 2023, Claremont officers responded to an SOS call from the fire department after a young woman reported that her father was shooting everyone in Monroe Township, 75 miles west of Columbus.
Can you tell how many people have been shot? I think 2 children. Okay. All right, I need, what was your scene?
There's a girl running down the street saying that her stepfather is killing everyone in her family.
And what did the female say to you?
And she says that her stepfather is killing everybody in her house.
Did she say how or what was happening?
I asked her to get in the car with me, and she said she couldn't leave her family.
The girl said her father had shot all the members of the family, throwing the officers into overdrive as they raced down to the scene.
There's a male actively shooting at the firehouse.
What they meet is a gory scene, littered with lifeless bodies of kids lying around the yard. There were 3 of them, all below the age of 11 and all children of the same man, Chad Doberman. As officers approach the yard, they yell for Chad to stand and place his hands on his head.
Stand up! Stand up now! Stand up! Stand the fuck up!
But he remains calm, sitting like he hadn't heard them. He looked completely unbothered, like he's waiting to get arrested. That's the horrifying bit of this experience, the carefree attitude and the quiet disregard that simply scares you to your bones. How can a man who's just killed 3 innocent boys sit down there like everything's right with the world?
Get your hands up here.
As if they're also irritated as the viewers, the officers haul Chad to the ground and lock him in cuffs. The cops quickly check the kids before inviting emergency services, but it was already too little too late as the children are all dead.
63, we're 21. Get the EMS over here.
Chad is unbelievable as this sound tries to convince them that his clean record says otherwise. He says, "I've not been doing drugs, I've not hurt anyone, I won't hurt anyone."
Man, I ain't trying to hurt nobody. I'm completely sober. I did drugs when I was little, but I don't do drugs now. I'm sober. I'm not trying to fight you.
While he's on the ground, Chad tries to assure the police officers that he wouldn't harm them, but the gory sight made the cops view Chad as a very dangerous individual and they treated him as such.
Can I roll over? I ain't gonna hurt you. I ain't gonna hurt nobody. You got anything on you? No, I ain't got nothing, man. Phone, that's it. I ain't mad, I ain't nothing. Just make sure that dog don't come out. I don't think he'll bite you. Just don't reach for him and try to grab him and pet him. All right. He won't bite you. What's going on, man? Nothing. Can I stand up? It's kind of uncomfortable. I'm gonna get you here in a second. I ain't running away. You can do whatever you want. You the only one else inside the house? What? You the only one else inside the house? Yeah. Sit down right here. My daughter, she ran over to the fire department. Sit down. It's my stepdaughter. Put him in the cage. This is Will.
Chad did fail to listen to the officer's request earlier to put his hands in the air, but his hands were visible and he shouldn't be perceived as a threat, but the cops viewed him as a threat and hurled him to the ground like he's some bag of beans. Right beside him on the ground was the Marlin Model HC-22 rifle he'd used to end his kids. As he's being led to the car, Chad asks that the officers take out his wallet. To this request, the cops hush him.
Can you get the wallet out of my back pocket? Shut up, dude.
However, before he's placed in the car, he's checked again and his wallet is removed at his request. The kids who lost their lives at the hand of their own father are 7-year-old Clayton Doberman, 4-year-old Hunter Doberman, and 3-year-old Chase Doberman. Investigations did not find the reason behind his actions, but he pleaded guilty to the accusations and is being held without bail in Claremont County Jail. His court case started the very next day, and the judge ordered that he be held in Claremont County Jail on a $20 million cash bond. He's facing 21 charges, including 9 counts of aggravated murder, 8 counts of kidnapping, and 4 counts of felonies. As he was being led into the police precinct, he's oddly calm. He waits by a wall while the officers sort out details over the counter.
What's your name?
Chad.
Chad. What's your last name?
Dorman.
Gorman?
Dorman.
Dorman. Have you ever been here before?
I think one time for fight with Dad.
He looked drowsy standing there, looking uncomfortable in the handcuffs. He paces a little and suddenly he begins to hit his head on the wall.
Don't be doing that, man. Don't be beating your head on the wall, okay?
Yeah.
The officers quickly warn him not to do that. There's no sign of struggle from Chad. He simply watches calmly and responds in a low voice whenever the cops ask a question.
Do you have any weapons or drugs on you?
No.
Anything that's gonna poke me, stick me, or hurt me?
No.
Okay. Put your hands up there. Do a pat down. Get everything out of your pockets.
Some minutes later, he's searched and led into his cell.
Just taking your belt off. You see the mom whistle? Bend it up here to me. There you go. Alright, we're going to step straight up to the counter, in front of that blue bag there to the left. Is he getting evidence bags or? Push. See your hands. I'm going to take this cuff off. Put your hand up here, palm down, okay? Same with this one.
All throughout this, Chad is fully cooperative and speaks respectfully to the officers. He looks incapable of causing harm and it makes you wonder, what really happened? So what made him do it? How did he do it? Investigations never told on the first questions, but some unsettling details have emerged showing how the murders were carried out. Apparently, Chad had been planning the act for months. He'd been set on killing his own kids since October of 22. The court documents say that Chad didn't sleep at home for 4 days leading up to the murders. Then he showed up that morning and called his boys and his wife, 34, to the master bedroom to join him for a nap. When they were settled in, Chad pulled out a Marlin Model HC-22 rifle from the gun safe and loaded it. In the living room of that same house on the Lauren Lindell Road, his 12-year-old stepdaughter was watching TV. The family was thrown into confusion the moment the first 2 bullets went off. The girl appeared in the doorway and his wife screamed at the other boys to run while trying to help one Chad had shot. Lauren ran with the second boy, but Chad chased them and shot him twice, once from afar and the second at close range. The girl got hold of the third boy and ran, but Chad threatened her with the gun and commanded her to put him down. The moment she put the boy down, he shot him. After carrying out his mission, Chad sat by the steps, his rifle beside him. He seemed to have been waiting. In a court statement, Chad admits to the crime, confessing that he shouldn't have done that. What could have come over him at that moment that he'd look at such lovely boys and snuff the life out of them like that? Until the full details of the investigation are released to the public, there's just no way of knowing what was going on in his mind.